Hi, everyone. It's Michael P. Spradlin back with chapter 14 of The Enemy Above. And we're going to keep going with these read alongs for as long as we need to. So I hope you all will share this freely with your friends, students, patrons, customers, whatever. Please feel free to use it however you see fit. And let's also remember that during this time, it's important that we remember to check on each other, watch out for each other, and choose every day that we can to be kind to one another. So let's jump right into chapter 14 of The Enemy Above. The entrance to the cave had been well camouflaged. The Gestapo did not show up the next day, or the one after that. Yet Dmitri and the other men refused to leave the cave. Water had to be rationed. In another day or so, they would run completely out and would have no choice but to go in search of more. While they waited, they worked on their exit strategy. Anton led Uncle Dmitri, Sergei, and Slava to the primitive staircase in the tunnel. The men improved the base and constructed a ladder from some lumber they had salvaged on one of their nighttime runs. Now everyone would be able to quickly climb out if they needed to escape. The rest of the time, the group rested. They had to conserve both food and energy. It was boring, but it did wonder for Anton's ribs. His sides still hurt when he laughed or coughed, but soon he could breathe and move freely. The monotony only seemed to make everyone more nervous. The men took turns guarding the narrow opening that led to the cave entrance. Each hour they waited, the tension grew. Anton let himself believe that the danger was past. On the third night, when they were nearly out of water, Uncle Dmitri decided they needed to risk venturing out of the cave. They split up into 3 teams of 2 men. 2 of the teams would go to the river, one upstream, the other down. The third team would travel farther to a small spring about 3 kilometers north of the cave. Dmitri, this is not a good plan, Buba said. What if the Gestapo is watching? Even if they did not find our cave, they could still be waiting nearby to ambush us. Dmitri shook his head. Mama, we can wait no longer. The children are thirsty. We need water to cook. There is no other option. The men readied themselves for the mission, putting on their warm coats and gloves. They all wore dark clothes and covered their faces in mud. No one wanted to be given away by moonlight. Each man grabbed a tin milk can and they steeled themselves for the night ahead. But before they could leave, a small metal cylinder clattered down the rock-lined entrance to the cave. Anton heard an ear-splitting pop. Smoke began pouring out of the cylinder, filling the chamber. "Grenade!" Dmitri yelled. "Everyone, to the tunnel! Take only what you can..." His words were cut off by the sound of machine gun fire. Bullets flew, ricocheting off the stone walls. "Hurry!" Dmitri pleaded. The cave became a flurry of activity as everyone scattered about, gathering up their meager possessions. "To the tunnel," he said. Anton grabbed his bag and glanced around for Buba. Uncle Dmitri had made her his responsibility if someone should uncover their hiding place. She stood near the entrance of the cave, her walking stick in hand. Looking over his shoulder, Anton saw that most of the group was disappearing into the darkness of the tunnel. Daniel waved for him to follow, but Anton had to get Bubba. Only she isn't moving, he thought. Why isn't she moving? If we don't get out of here, the Gestapo is going to get us, and all of this will have been for nothing. But suddenly he realized what she was doing. If Bubba remained behind, the Nazis would have to deal with her, which would give everyone else time to get away. Anton lunged forward and grabbed her arm. "Bubba, come, we must hurry." The gunshots had stopped, but the echo of boots and the shouts of Schnell and Halton were coming closer. "No, Anton," she said, "you must go. Help your uncle lead the others to the priest's grotto. I am old and weak, and I will only slow the group down." "But Bubba," Anton said, his eyes filling with tears, "you would be taken to the camps, or..." The footsteps were drawing nearer. By now the cavern was empty except for Rena and her small son David, who appeared too frightened to move. He grabbed a small pillar of rock and hugged it tightly as she pulled at his arms and pleaded with him to come with her. "Bubba, please," Anton begged. "Listen to your Bubba. Run. Help the others." "No, Bubba, I won't leave you." Anton did not know what to do. Seconds ticked by, each one measured by the pounding of his heart. "They are coming, Anton. Hide. God will watch over me." She pushed him away. The soldiers were in the entrance tunnel now. There was not enough time for Anton to run. He looked around wildly. A small dark depression in the wall a few meters away caught his eye. A wooden table one of the men had constructed stood in front of it, masking the opening in shadow. Anton ran to it and crawled inside, making himself as small as possible. Rena had managed to pry her son away from the column, but she had no chance to race to the tunnel before a squad of German soldiers entered the chamber. It was easy to recognize their Gestapo uniforms. All of them carried machine guns, except for the lead officer, who pointed a Luger, a large and powerful pistol, right at Buba. Anton nearly lunged from his hiding place. He wanted desperately to put himself between Buba and the barrel of the gun. As if she were reading his mind, she tapped the ground twice with her walking stick, reminding him and everyone else who might hear it to be quiet and pay attention. The officer squinted at her cane. He was very young. As Anton studied him, he memorized the man's features. His chin was sharp, almost pointed. His nose was slightly small for his face. Blond hair peeked out from beneath his uniform cap, and even to this distance, the icy blueness of his eyes shone in the flickering light of the lanterns. His uniform was immaculate except for a bit of mud on the boots. Uncle Dmitri had taught to recognize the ranks of German officers. Major's braids adorned his collar. Anton felt a fluttering of fear in his stomach. How could one so young rise to such a rank? It must be because he was ruthless and cruel. The major stared at Buba. She stared back at him unflinchingly. If he thought he could win a staring contest with her, Herr Major was in for a rude awakening. Though she was old and bent by the harshness of her life, there remained steel in her. She had needed it to survive and raise her sons when Anton's grandfather passed. Her face showed no fear, only resolve. The officer looked away first, his gaze jumping all around the chamber before settling on Rena and her child. The major barked an order. Anton understood some German and believed he told one of his men to take Rena away. Nein, Buba said. No. The officer looked at the woman standing in front of him, his face a mixture of anger and bemusement. Nein, he said, laughing. Buba nodded. Nein. We are living here in peace. We bother no one. You have no right to take us anywhere. I have every right, the major said. The Fuhrer has annexed this land and declared it Juden-free. It is the law. Annexed? Don't you mean conquered? Buba threw back her head and laughed. What have you conquered exactly? From all we hear, the mighty German army could not take a single city in Russia. In fact, the word is your military is retreating from the Eastern Front. And what exactly have you conquered here? An old woman, a mother, and her baby? Anger flashed in the major's eyes, and Anton wished she would not antagonize a man holding a gun. But he also knew that every moment she kept the soldiers here in the cave bought time for the others to escape. Please, Buba, he prayed, please be careful. You are under arrest. You will be taken into custody and transported to Bordeaux, where you will be processed. You will come peacefully, or, if you wish, we can force you. The Fuhrer does not care how the Juden are taken, only that they are. Ah, yes, your mighty Fuhrer, Buba said. What is he so afraid of? His war cannot be won unless he captures farmers and cobblers and blacksmiths. Do these simple people cause the mighty Reich to cower in fear? The major's hand snapped out like a snake and struck Buba across the face. Even as she did so, she tapped her walking stick twice on the chamber floor. She knew Anton was watching and wanted him to remain hidden. She took the slap stoically, refusing to acknowledge the humiliation or the pain. I see the Reich is very good at teaching the Osako how to beat up old women, she said. If you would like, I can take you to all the nearby houses with defenseless elderly women so you can slap them around as well. The major raised his hand again, but this time something made him stop. She was goading him. You will find that righteous attitude and sharp tongue will be of little use to you in the camp, she said. You are very brave, Herr Major. Tell me, what type of medal do you get for capturing an old woman? The major ignored her insult. He turned to his men. Take them, he said. The rest of you search this chamber. There must be more of them hidden somewhere. Anton wanted to cry out. He wished more than anything that he were older and stronger. If he were, he would dive from this hiding place, grab the major's gun, and shoot all the Germans dead. He would move like lightning, killing them all before they had a chance to react. But Anton was just a boy. So instead, he watched in horror as the soldiers grabbed Buba roughly by the arms and dragged her toward the entrance of the cape. Rena clasped her sobbing, terrified son to her chest, but the men did not care. One of them roughly pushed her forward, and she stumbled and nearly fell. Schnell, Schnell, he hollered at her. Another soldier ripped David from her arms. The small boy screamed in terror, his tiny arms reaching out for his mother. No, please, no, Rena cried. Another one of the soldiers drove the butt of his rifle into her stomach. She gasped in agony and would have collapsed to the ground if he had not caught her and dragged her along. Anton cowered in the darkness until they disappeared from sight. He felt ashamed that he had not rushed to their aid, but now all he could do was pray that the remaining soldiers would not find him here in the darkness. If he managed to elude them, he was not sure what would come next. Should he try to catch up with the others on their way to the priest's grotto? No, he would not leave Buba in the hands of the Nazis. It was a horrible feeling not knowing what to do. He could only hope that God would give him the chance to escape the cave and to rescue his grandmother. And that's the end of chapter 14, and we'll be back tomorrow with chapter 15. Everybody stay healthy, and stay safe.